My name is Adrian Barlow, and I have the honor of being the president-elect of the Notre Dame Alumni Association. I graduated from here in 1988 as a proud member of the Naval ROTC unit, and then served in the fleet for 4 years as a surface warfare officer, went to Desert Storm, shot some Tomahawks, transitioned to public affairs, because like many Notre Dame graduates, I'm probably more comfortable talking than I am, doing paperwork, things like that. But anyways, it's my distinct honor to be here this evening with you to introduce a gentleman who I actually met very long ago. When I was a midshipman here, he was a midshipman. And I was 2 years older than him, so I very clearly outranked him. So, as we talk tonight, I just wanted to comment on the fact that we, as graduates and supporters of the University of Notre Dame, we can sometimes become numb when we think about or hear about some of the overachieving ways of our fellow alumni. There may be a conversation where you're walking across campus and you meet someone and you're like, oh, you're the owner of an NFL team. How nice for you. Or you're the governor of a state. Well, A, nice to meet you, and B, what does that make, like 10 for us now? Oh, you're a Supreme Court justice. Congratulations. And I've always wondered, do you have to pay for those robes or just rent them? Because we become accustomed to it, and maybe we get a little numb. And really, the truth is, the list of accomplished Notre Dame alumni, it just goes on and on. From Nobel laureates, to CEOs, to inventors, to university presidents like our own Father Bob. So honestly, you can't be blamed if you're a little jaded by the whole experience when it comes to hearing about what would you fight for and the people that we call our fellow alumni. And that's why it's important to me to help you understand just how unique and honestly, quite frankly, how important our guest of honor is. Now, taking into account the possibility that there may be differing perspectives on America's military might, it's very clear that our nation is really at the top of the pecking order when it comes to global presence, the sophistication of our technology, and our ability to influence the conversation just by showing up. Now, when the Navy shows up, ready to defend U.S. interests, they do so with unmatched capabilities and the ability to stay there until the issue is resolved. And at the heart of that response is our aircraft carriers and submarines, all of which owe their ability to operate safely and effectively for decades at a time to our guest, the head of Navy nuclear power. Now, Navy nuclear power began back in 1950 on the heels of World War II, and it was under the leadership of a gentleman named Hyman Rickover. And somehow he managed to lead from a blank piece of paper to an operational deployable submarine, nuclear submarine, in 5 years. The man is a legend. And in the intervening years, only 7 people have filled that role that Rickover created when he created the nuclear navy. This gentleman, who you'll meet here in a moment, oversees the 70 submarines that patrol the nation's oceans and the 12 aircraft carriers that form the heart of our deployable ability to manifest our power around the world. If you were to replace those 70 submarines and 12 aircraft carriers, it would cost you $570 billion with a B. He also has oversight of 3 nuclear reactors and multiple laboratories with the Department of Energy that would cost about $80 billion to replace. Throw in about 10,000 Department of Energy employees and another 20,000 of the smartest sailors and officers that the Navy has to offer, and you have a leader with a big responsibility and an even greater impact. You have a leader who stands out among all Notre Dame alumni. He's one of only 3 of our officers to ever attain 4-star rank. He is a member of the class of 1990, as I mentioned, and so I did meet him as a still wet behind the ears midshipman back in the day. But it's my honor to recognize him as one of the finest leaders that our university has ever produced. So please join me in welcoming the winner of the Corby Award for Distinguished Military Service, Admiral William Houston.
Wow. I am from the silent service, which my wife keeps on reminding me. I'm not a public affairs type guy. So Andrew, I'm just going to try and keep it simple up here. So the Navy tells sea stories, okay? That's what you do when you're a naval officer. You tell sea stories. And I'm going to tell a sea story, and I'm going to frame it around God, country, Notre Dame, phrases that we all know. Before I start that, I'd like to say thank you to many people in this audience. I'd like to thank the Alumni Association. I'd like to thank the faculties. I'd like to thank the friends of Notre Dame. This, and it's throughout my remarks tonight, this place is a force for good. It is something more than just a university, and we need to recognize that. When you look at God, Country, Notre Dame, it's on Sacred Heart. It is the spiritual central theme of Notre Dame on that basilica. It is a tremendous honor to go ahead and tell the sea story regarding that. I've got to thank some specific people in the audience. Len Moss, who nominated me. I don't know how you did that, Len. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the people who picked me out of all that, too. Dolly, you are a global force for good. What you do here at the university is incredible, and I just thank you. I will thank my wife, my two daughters, my wife Colleen there, my daughter Emily, who's a junior here. My wife Colleen is a 1990 grad, a very distinguished naval officer in her own right, and I'll talk about that. My daughter Lauren, who is working in DC at a law firm. I am blessed by so many people who got me to this point. My wife will attest to this. Andrew will probably attest to this as a wet behind the ears midshipman. I'm surprised to be here, and my wife would say she's surprised to see me here also, okay? That sea story is really about the people who took the time, took the effort, who challenged me, made me mad, tell me when I did a good job, more often told me when I really messed something up, which was frequently, and really made me who I am. That starts with the family that you're born into, as our Chief of Naval Operations would say. My dad is a 1961 graduate of Notre Dame. He's a chemical engineer. I have a wonderful mother who's still alive, sharp as tack, goes by Mumsy, and I have two wonderful brothers and a wonderful sister, and one of my brothers went here to Notre Dame with me. He's my little brother, and I'll just put out, he's still my mom's favorite, and I got that on the record right now. And when I look at my story and when I start my journey to Notre Dame, it really starts with my dad and watching Notre Dame games, like probably a lot of us did when we were growing up. And I may have learned quite a few words listening to radio or watching TV that my mom wasn't very happy with. I may have saw my dad drink a few beers as the game was really close, and I will wholeheartedly admit I have all those genes in me now too. And my wife and my daughter will certainly attest to that, okay? But it's a passion about this great university. And so God works in mysterious ways. We all know that. And God has a path for all of us. And my path on that journey starts where I go ahead and I'm skipping lunch. God does not condone truancy, I'll just tell you that. But I'm skipping lunch on a warm summer day, and I'm hanging out in the guidance office. And Jeannie Harper, our lunch lady, is pulling people out by their ears out of the guidance office and threatening detention for them. And I happen to see an NROTC Naval Reserve Officer Training Candidate Scholarship Program, and I grab it. So my ears are still intact, and I furiously fill it in. And that angel sent by God, Jeannie, that lunch monitor, certainly made sure I filled that in and certainly made sure I submitted that. And so I had a Naval Reserve Officer training candidate, a scholarship to go to whatever school I wanted. And those of you who know me, I'm maybe not as squared away as most naval officers like my wife are. And I applied to 3 colleges. I got lucky enough to get in, Notre Dame. And my father did not push me at all, unlike I pushed my daughter totally to get into Notre Dame, okay? My dad did not. And I got into 2 local schools in Buffalo. And another angel intervened and said, Bill, what are you thinking? You need to go to Notre Dame. My dad didn't push me. And of course, I chose Notre Dame. And so, when you take a look, I didn't know who Father William Corby was when I came here. I didn't know the story about him and Gettysburg and Antietam and giving absolution to the Irish Brigade before they largely went out to die and sacrifice and give their lives for an ideal that was bigger than them. Just like Father Corby was doing something larger than himself. And that is what Notre Dame is about. It is about service larger than yourself. And that is what is emblazoned on Sacred Heart, several of my shirts, and that is what is emblazoned on the men and women who go here, and also the men and women who serve in your military. There's thousands of military personnel who've gone to Notre Dame, and many, unfortunately, have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and we are shaped by Notre Dame. So when I trundled off to college, after I'd been accepted, and God had nudged me here, and I had a full head of hair. Yes, I did have hair at one point. It was a wonderful flat top. I somewhat looked like Tom Cruise at the time, and Top Gun had come out. Not Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun. And so I came out. I had red Converse Chuck Taylor high tops. I could punk dance if I drank enough. And maybe I drank to excess in my first year at Notre Dame, and I was a little scared I'd get through. And more people were scared that I'd get through. But I showed up to Notre Dame, and it embraced me as a family, and I went ahead and I completed my first year of school. It may have been a little shaky in physics, so all you physics majors, much better. Notice that I'm in charge of the most reactors in the world right now, okay? There is, I think it's Father Jenkins talked about during freshman orientation when my daughter came in, that Emil Hoffman raised a grade from a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry from a C to an A. I'm just asking for my D to be raised to a B. You don't even have to change it. You just need to put a little line in it there. It'd be pretty easy. And then God, working in his mysterious way, sent me a young kid from Western New York after my freshman year at Notre Dame. He sent me on a submarine cruise out of San Diego, California to Japan. I was on the oldest submarine. There were potatoes in the shower. We had to eat all those till we got a shower. It was smelly. The crew was really, really smart, and I absolutely loved it. And God had shown me my path that I was going to be on. And you ask, why would you ever decide to go in a steel tube with no air, fresh air, cut off from everybody you know about? Why would you do that? I don't know. It's what God spoke to me. I loved every minute of it. I am a career submariner, nearly 35 years of service. I've spent more than 8 years of that time underwater, out of contact with every family member I have. My wife, daughters, they have had me miss more birthdays, never be there for homework, never be there for the crisis, and they have supported me. And they are my gift from God, that I am surrounded by the most strong women, very critical women who keep me in line too. But they are incredible. And so God put me on a path to serve, but Notre Dame taught me how to serve. So at that time that I was attending Notre Dame from 86 to 90, Russia did not exist. It existed as the Soviet Union. And if you look at it, it was the height of the Cold War. We had tremendous nuclear arsenals, strategic weapons pointed at each other. There wasn't arms control at that time. We're faced with moral decisions, and I'm joining the submarine force, which is 1/3 of our nuclear triad, and you're faced with moral decisions on employment of strategic weapons. You're training on how to lead people that you are training to go to combat. Any of you who've ever watched the movie War Games by Matthew Broderick, I'll date myself. It's a story about global thermonuclear war. Nobody wins. The artificial intelligence at that day says, how about a game of chess? Because nobody wants to play that game. But that moral foundation, those theologies, that philosophy course that they made engineers who hated English take and develop, that made me the officer that I became. So my Navy career has been fantastic. I have enjoyed my toughest day in the Navy. I would not sacrifice for anything else. I've enjoyed my time immeasurably. But that Notre Dame foundation that gave to me with that strong moral foundation, my first flag assignment, I worked at U.S. Strategic Command. I designed our current strategic plan, war plan. My submarine force command that I just came from, I was in charge of the entire SSBN force. It is the most destructive weapon system ever created. It can unleash more firepower in 1 hour than was delivered in all of World War II. I have had the privilege of leading this nation's finest men and finest women in execution of those missions based on that strong moral foundation founded on God, country, Notre Dame. It's been my privilege. As a submarine officer, I can't tell you where I've been. Nobody else knows where I've been other than the people on the submarine in many cases. I've operated on missions personally approved by the president due to the sensitivity of those. I have surfaced under the North Pole on submarines under ice, operating far away from home. I have had the privilege, again, to lead tremendous men and women operating systems more complex than the space shuttle. And we have done that in the Navy, nuclear propulsion, for more than 75 years. We've been powering maritime dominance. Our submarines, our aircraft carriers are second to none. Our SSBNs are 1/3 of the triad, but are carrying 70% of our strategic warheads. So 1/3 is carrying more than 2/3 of that day to day. Our aircraft carriers, when something goes wrong, the president asks where our aircraft carriers are, and we send them where they're needed. Sovereign U.S. power to be able to project through the world. And our fast attack submarines, they are the apex predator of the deep. Our adversaries have no answer for those, and I do not want a fair fight when we go to war. And my ship, the USS Hampton, the submarine I had the privilege of commanding, its motto was, "Those who desire peace, prepare for war." And I can tell you, nobody in the military wants to go to war. We will suffer greatly in any war with loss of personal lives, but we do it because of our families who support us every single day. Notre Dame has a special bond with the military, and I just want to make sure you understand that. We've talked about Father Corby, and that special bond is the 3rd and 5th president, what he's done. But I will also tell you, Notre Dame and Navy have a very, very special bond. In World War II, Notre Dame was going to go out of business. There were no students here at Notre Dame. It was less than about 2,000. And the Navy and Notre Dame got together, and Notre Dame said, "We're ready to help you commission officers for World War II." And the Navy says, "That's great, we need it." Notre Dame produced over 12,000 naval officers in World War II, most of any program, by far further than the Naval Academy. And those officers went out and served with great distinction. And following that, we established the Reserve Officer Training Program, ROTC. And I can tell you that program, Andrew talked about Admiral Grady, General Fenton. General Fenton's an Army grad for SOCOM, but Admiral Grady's Navy, Kathleen Crichton, two-star admiral, retired. Out of the last 5 years, 3 of the graduates are from that ROTC program. And they all had exceptional moral background. And that's what this university does. It's incredible to think of what this university stands for and the people it has trained to carry on going forward from the ROTC program. And so as I wrap this up, I will share a story about Father Hesburgh, whose biography I've just read for the second time. But Father Ted wanted to be a Navy chaplain, believe it or not. That's what he wanted to be. Guess what happened? God had a different path for him. God said, you're going to be at Notre Dame. You're not going to go to that aircraft carrier and be the chaplain for the Navy. Father Hesburgh, arguably one of our most distinguished, if not the most distinguished president we've had, God put him on a different path, and he remarks about that in his biography titled God, Country, Notre Dame. And so when you look at what Father Ted's done, though, here at Notre Dame, he has, not just for the Navy, because it's tremendous influence on the Navy, but all the students here, all the faculty, all the military. When I was here, 1 out of 8 students was in Army, Air Force, or Navy ROTC. He had a tremendous spiritual connection to him. And that's the way God works. He works in mysterious ways. Some people try and understand him. I just try and appreciate him. And I think that's what we need to do. God loves us. God has put us here for a purpose. I don't know what path I'm on. My wife will say, you certainly don't, and I need her navigation all the time. I am blessed that God gave me a wonderful wife, a wonderful family, a wonderful education. My wife, Colleen, is a retired captain. We did it as 2 military officers, raised 2 wonderful daughters. We've been blessed by God with a wonderful grandson. And why God put my grandson in D.C. with me for an 8-year tour, 8-year assignment, so I'll have 42 years of service when I retire. And why that little guy calls me Grandpa Godzilla, and he is my buddy Little King Kong. I don't know why, and I'm not going to question it, just like I don't question why God has me on that path, but it's a great path to be on. On the countryside, from God Country, I have dedicated my life to fight for my country, just like millions of military members have, and hundreds of thousands of people who have some connection with Notre Dame. And so when you look at what Notre Dame is, it's a force for good. And there is evil in this world. If you ever question whether there's evil, I suggest you go to the Holocaust Memorial. There is immense evil in this world. And unfortunately, we need military. It's not a business that anybody wants to be into. It's a business that unfortunately we need. And that God Country Notre Dame is about service. And whether you're in the military, which I'm privileged to be in, or you're serving in your own way, we all serve this great country. We know it's not perfect, but it is the best country you could imagine. General Fenton talked about it in his speech last year. He talked, when you talk to people not from America, they may not talk publicly about it. They certainly talk privately about it. Of all the countries they'd want to be from, it's from the United States. And then I'll wrap up with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been part of my family, you know. It's been bred into me. Whether it was that football game when I was 6 or 7 and I heard words I probably shouldn't have, It is part of my spirit. It is part of my moral foundation. It's part of everybody in this rooms. And I thank you for being that. We're all bonded together because of Notre Dame. Whether you went here or not doesn't matter. You are part of it because you're contributing to it. And it's bigger than what you are. It is a force for good. Where we need more beacons of light, Notre Dame stands apart as a beacon of light for the world. It is a global force for good. It is willing to fight for things. And that is what makes us special. So God Country Notre Dame, that is my sea story that I'm privileged to tell you. I'm privileged to share with you. I thank you for getting me to this point because I couldn't have done it without you. I am privileged to represent the United States military. It is my great honor. So God bless our nation, God bless our military, and God bless Notre Dame. So go Irish. Thank you.